Welcome back to the next video. This is video 14 and here we are dealing with file uploading. Specifically we are uploading a profile image for a user, and this endpoint is also protected by a JWT, and then we have another endpoint where we serve or download a profile. The structure of the video is as always: first we have a look what we are building, then we will write a user story for this, and then we will implement it or code it and then close it. So let's see what we are building in this video. Here we are having a new post endpoint for uploading a profile picture for a user. This is protected by JWT, so you have to be the user to upload your own profile image or update it. So you can then add your file, for example a PNG, hit send, and then you get returned the name of your image, and this is, you see it here, a new property in your user profile, so which image is yours. And then we also have a GET request where we can just add this file name to the URL as a parameter, and then you can hit send, so for this GET request, and you get returned this profile image. You can see they are stored here in uploads, so there are two new files and they are getting returned. Let's start by reading our story first. So here we are in video 14 and we want to upload a profile image. So as a technical lead, the API should provide an endpoint to upload a profile image for a user. The profile image should be attached to the user, so when I visit his profile page later I can see the image. So this is probably coming in the next story where we implement this feature also in the front end, and then you can navigate through the profile pages of the users and can always see the image. And then we have our acceptance criteria. We want to have one new endpoint to upload a profile image. We want to have a new endpoint to download a profile image. We want to save this image to our file system, so to our local file system, and we want that only the user himself is able to upload his own profile image or to update. So he can later make another image and load it up, and then it's getting replaced in the database, or better the string. So we are not storing the image in the database, we are just storing a string there with a path to the image, and the image itself is being stored on the file system. And later we can also do this in a new story where we upload this image to an AWS S3 bucket or something like this. So we can move this story to doing and switch to our code, and you can see we are here in our API folder, and we can look where we are. So we can say git status, and we are on our branch develop, so we can say git-flow feature start, and now we are in video 14. And so we are now going to our new branch video 14 or feature video 14 based on develop. So the first thing that we can do is we can go for a nest.js, upload a file, and this makes it very simple actually, because it's using the Express or from Festify the upload, so we don't really need to do much here. If we want to upload a single file, we can just use the file interceptor here. And first we have to install, I think, where is it? Platform Express. So we can do this first, so we don't have to wait later. And then we can read this here. So Nest provides a built-in module based on Multa middleware for Express, and this handles data as multi-part form data format, which is used for uploading files with HTTP post request. This module is fully configurable, and you can adjust its behavior to your application requirements. So we always have to look that our post request later will always have this form data, so Multa can work with that. So this would be a very basic example what we can actually use, because you want to upload one single file, and then we want to store it on our system. So first we can log it out and look that everything works, and then we can store it later on our file system. And here you can also upload an array of files, but we just want to upload one single user profile picture, or you can upload any files and not just an image. So let's go into our code, and you see now we have installed this Nest Express image. And since we want the user to be able to upload a picture, we go into our userController and we add just one new endpoint, and we can just call this function upload file. And here we want to return an observable, and we want to return an object. So for example, we can later send something like this. We can say return, and then we set an object and we just return the image path later. So this could be something that we do. So file URL, but file.path, so what we are uploading, then we save it to our file system, and then we return just the path where we uploaded it. So this could be how it's looking later. What we need to do now is we want to make a post request, and this should go against upload. And another thing that we have to do now is we want to use interceptors, and we can see this is imported by, so we don't need this, from nest.js common, and then we need the file interceptor, from nest.js express. So just look it up why it's not importing. Interceptor import. So we can, I think, just say we want to import file interceptor from nest.js, and then we go for platform express. And then we can give them here some options. So this should be named file. And then we can give it some options, so we can do this now. And here we can specify where we want to save, for example, the file. So we can Google for this. And look what we are getting here. Yeah, so you see here we can give it a storage destination, so we want to save it to this storage, in which folder we want to save it, what should be the file name, and there we need a callback function with the name. Here, so we can just modify this a bit. So we can say, for example, here in this, you see here, they are having the file interceptor, which is listening for the form data, and this is named file, so we see it later in Postman what requests we need. And then we have here an object which specifies where we want to save the file and with which name we want to save it. So we can just go in here, make a little configuration object, and then we say we have the storage, you see it here. Oh, it's not showing us anything, so we say storage, and then we want to go to the disk storage, and we have to look where we import this from. We go from multa, and here we can just say also some configuration. So at first we want to save it into one folder, and we can name this. We want to stay in the same folder from our base path, so in our source. Then we want to save it in uploads, and then we make another folder, profile images. Then we can also add some other things like the file name. And here we need our callback function, so we say request file and callback. And then we can insert here the file name. So the first thing that we have to do is we need to get the file name. So we can just name this file name. This is of type string. And here we can go against path.parse. And we take our file and then the original name. This is something this is coming from Malta. And we go from path, and we want to have the name. And then we can also say with regex, we don't want to have any white spaces or something in it. So then we have to escape this and replace them. And then we have here we get our file, the original name of the file here. Then we go for the name and replace all the white spaces. And then we can also add a unique ID. So we can just say npm install uuid --save. So this will generate us a unique ID that we can add to the file name. So this verifies that every file name is just one time appearing, and we can look how we can use it. And here you see we have the version 4, completely random, created from cryptographically strong random values, and we can use it like this. So we can just import this here. And then we go for UUID for version 4. And this will generate a random string for us. So we can do the same thing by splitting up our file name. So here we said we want to have our original name, .name, and this is the part before the dot. And so the file also has an extension, for example, PNG or JPEG, whatever, and we want to get this also. So we again take our original name, so the complete name, so for example image.jpg, and then we don't go for the name, but we go for the extension and save this. And then we return with our callback, either null, or we return the new file name, and we just say we take this file name here, and then we directly add the extension, so that it's always, if we get a PNG in, we take a PNG out. If we get a JPEG in, we get a JPEG out. And now we can just say return, we return an object, and we can just say image path this, but file dot path. So we don't have it here at the moment. So what we need is in our upload file, we can use this upload file or uploaded file from nest.js. We name this file, and then we can just say file.path. And here it wants us to return an observable, so we can just say off. And now we can test this with Postman. So we have to start our API. And then here we have to make our request. So we can go for a new request. We are going against HTTP localhost, against users or API users. And then we go against the new upload endpoint, and we don't want to make a get, we want to make a post request. And in our body now we want to submit the form data, so the image, and we name this file because we saw it here. We are going for file here, and then we get that file. So we say file here, and now we want to not text but upload a file and select one file. So we can just use the image or thumbnail from the last video, and you see we have here white space, so this should be removed. And we can also, we can just console log the file here, so we will see what we are getting. So if we hit this endpoint now, we hopefully see nothing. So we were not connected to the database, but if we take it now, you see we are getting returned an image path. And we have here the name of our image without a white space, but completely then we have our unique ID and the extension, so the .png. So what we also want to do is we don't want to have this full path here, so we can just remove this. So you see we don't want to have this path here, so we can just go in our code, and you see our image has field name, origin name, encoding, destination, file name and path, and we don't want to return our path but our file name. So we can just go for file.filename. So now we have our basics. What we can do to refactor is this here is getting a bit large. So for example, we can just say and make it a const, and we can just say export const, and we name this storage, and then we just copy this here. Where are we here? And then we can add this configuration here, and we say storage. And if we now upload the file again, we should get just our file name. You see it here, thumbnail new, neu, and then our unique ID. And it's also working. So the next thing that we want to do is that only the user himself should be able to upload a profile image. And by the way, you can already see we have here our uploads folder with profile images folder, and when we now open it in the File Explorer, you can see we have our profile images here. So now we can just use the guards that we already used here, use our JWT Auth Guard and role guard. So we don't need our role guard here, but we can just use our JWT Auth Guard, because we can see what this does is if we go into our Auth Guard, we expand this, and we are running here our JWT strategy, and this is adding a user object to our request. And now we can access this and check and just upload if we are, so this Auth Guard is first checking is the user having a valid JWT, and the next thing it does, it's adding the user object, so from the extraction from the JWT to our request, so we can access it here. And we can say we have now a user from a user, and this is our rec user.user from our request. So we can console log this user out and check if this is right. And so we are missing here our request object. So what we need, we have to use the request annotation, and we can call this rec request. So where is it importing it from? So now it's fine. And now we see if we want to hit this endpoint, we should get a access denied error because we don't have a valid JWT here. Now you see we hit this. We immediately get a status code for a 1 unauthorized because we don't have a JWT or a valid one. So what we need to do is we can use our login endpoint and get us a valid JWT. Copy this and just add this here for our authorization for a bearer token. And now if we hit send with our image, you see we can upload the image, and we have here our user from the request, so from our JWT. And now we just do not want to store it here in our file system, but we also want to save it to our user. So what we need to do now at first is we have to expand our user model. So we can, our user interface will now get the image, or let's call it a profile image. And this is just the file name. And here we also have our user entity. And here we can say this is nullable true, because now we have some users already in our database that are not having this value set, so otherwise it would fail. And we can just say this is our profile image, and this is a string. So then we have our models right, and we can just go for our controller, and we can say we want to return our user service, and there we use our updateOne. And here we need two things. First, the ID of the user that we want to update, so we go for user.id from the user from our request. And the second, it wants the user things that should be changed, so we can go for the profile image, and then there we just save the file.file name. Then we can pipe the outcome and map our user and return our object, so our observable, and we can say profile image is user.profile image. So this user here, so if everything is going correctly, we should get it return this. And here we also have to fix this, because now we return just what the database did. But also we want to return the user if everything is done right. So we can just pipe this here and make a little switch map and make another request, so we don't have anything here, and we just say our find1 method, we insert our ID, and then we return this user object that we find. So if we make this request now, and we can delete this here, we should get profile image, and everything should be fine. So we see it here. And we can also just log the user out, so we see that everything is fine. To imported. And now if we hit the endpoint again, it should log out our endpoint or our user with our profile image. Let's see what's going wrong. So we have found one error. Where is it? Let's start it again. So userController app user. So I thought we imported it. I didn't save the file. So now everything should work fine, I hope. Let's see if we get a connection to our database. So if we hit it now, it returns our user with our profile image, the new one. So and the next thing that we want to do is we also want to get the profile image. So later, if we have our front end set up, so everyone should be able to get to the profile page and get the profile image from a user. So we can make a new function and say find profile image, and here we get a parameter, and we can just use it or say this is our image name in our URL or URI. And then we have address. So this is the response object from Express. And here we also return an observable and an object. And this should be a GET request, so you can also just hit this in the browser. And here we go against, let's say, profile image dot image name. And then we can just return an observable of, and we can say in our response object we want to send a file. I hope the import address from nest.js, yes. And there we join two things. First, our active CVD, or actually where we are. What's the English name? So it's like path directory, and there we go to uploads, and then into our folder profile image, and then we just add the image name to it that we request, and then we search for it. Everything is there, we return it, and everything should be fine. So what we could do now is we make another request here. Should be a GET request. And then we have here the name profile image. Profile image. And then the image name. So we just can use this image name that we have here. And then the image should be displayed in Postman. So nothing here. Let's see what's wrong. Make GET request. What is that? No such file directory. So we see it's going for API uploads. profile image, and it should be profile images, and then the image name. So if we hit it again, when this is restarted, you see now we're getting returned the whole image. So let's save our request here to our postman, and let's say just save as. We want to save it to our collection YouTube blog, and we say upload profile picture. Let's say form data in JWT. And we also want to save this request here. Download image or profile image. And so with this methods we can later also make another post or upload image or upload file in another module or another endpoint, and then we can store, for example, a news image in the new folder news images, and then make a custom GET request also. What you could also do is you could use the Node or Nest module serve static files, and then you would serve all the files in a folder. So you could do this to serve your front end. So you could do this just like this. But this is not necessary for this thing. So we just want to upload our profile images to this folder and return exactly these images. So let's commit our changes and save our new endpoints here, or export them to the same folder as before. So we are in documents, and just override this here and save all our requests. And then we can say git add -upper git commit, and let's say video 14, and then we say added post profile image and added get profile image endpoints for users, and push it to our branch. And then we can also say git-flow feature finish and merge it back into our develop, and then push our develop branch. So here we can now just close our story. So we have a new endpoint for uploading a profile image, we have a new endpoint for downloading one, we are saving it to our file system, and only the user himself is able to upload or update his own profile image. So we can move this to done. Now you see we have pushed everything, and we also pushed these images. So this is not bad, but you can just delete them.